Right, so here's what we're going to do next. We're going to create a very simple application where we're going to have a button of some sort or tappable UI widget. And when that is tapped, right, this circle is tapped, we want to increment the amount of money we'll see at the top there. So it's a very simple app, but it will give us some insights into Compose and how certain things work. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So back in our project, let's clean things up. So there are a lot of things that we no longer need. In this case, I'm just going to get rid of all of this. Okay, and then get rid of this. So just for testing purposes, I'm going to get rid of this composable as well, which means this needs to go. We can't do that anymore. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do here inside of our set content, we are passing, of course, the compose theme, and then we have a surface we talked about is taking over the entire screen at this point because we have max height and max width. We add some padding, and at this point, let's just get rid of that because we're not going to need that. Of course, then forget our comma there. Okay. Now, one thing I want to do is, in fact, let's come back. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to remove this surface outside into its own place. So I'm going to create another composable here. So say add, space, add composable as such, say fun, call this my app. Okay. And then for this my app here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this entire surface there. Okay, this is going to be our canvas per se. I'm going to put it here as such. Okay. And then for now, inside here, let's just say text and say hello. Okay, and I'm going to call my app, of course, inside here, my app as a composable. Very good. And then also my app here. So this is just a very simple way of organizing our composables. So we want to have it inside here because we want to be able to see in our preview here. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And there you have it. So we get what we are looking for. And the other thing you see to the right, bottom right here, we can actually toggle the percent. We can actually toggle the views here. I can maximize, so zoom in, or minimize, zoom out. So in this case, if I go to click the zoom to fit screen, click here, you can see it's going to go ahead and zoom to fit this real estate we have. Okay. All right. So we have everything looking good. So there's the color, primary color, because that's what we chose. The other thing I can do, if I want to, for instance, add a customized color, I can get rid of this and I can invoke color class as that and pass in its constructor. I'm going to pass the code that will represent a different color that I want. All right. So to pass the hex code to pass a hex code here, which will represent a color, the first thing you have to do, you're going to say 0, X, and then I already have the color, so I'm just going to, and then I already have the color somewhere. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to add it there. The other thing I'm going to add, I'm going to say FF to begin with, like this, and then the actual color, okay? Oops, like this. All right, there we go. So these colors here, it doesn't matter really. You can put whatever you want, but I just found that color to be great. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this real quick to see the differences. Okay, so there we go. We have that very nice color there. Very good. So that was a test. I'm going to get rid of this and continue. Now, the next thing so what is it I want to do? First of all, when I create a circle inside here, there are different ways to create a circle. So I'm going to create yet another composable here. Say add composable as such, and call, say fun, and say create circle like this. Okay. And inside here, I'm going to create a circle. How do I create a circle? Well, as I said, there's different ways, but the basics is that we need to have some sort of the baseline, or we have to have some sort of a main composable we can call, and then we can modify it. So let's start with a card. So I'm going to say a card like this. So it is a composable. Hit enter. And for now, also, I'm going to go ahead and make this previewable, so that way I can also preview to the right here. So at preview as such. And in this card here, if you hover over, you will see that there are a lot of arguments that we can pass. Most important one, we have this modifier, and we have the shape, background, and so forth. And one thing that is very important, the order in which these are added is very important as well. Okay, so let's start with modifier, because it will allow us to modify, as the name implies, our card. Okay, so inside here, I'm going to pass, say, modifier as such, and the ID will help us. Just hit enter, and then pass modifier. And then we can call whatever we want. We can use padding, just put 3.dp, right? And I can chain our modifier as I've shown you before. So what I want to do is, for instance, I can say dot background and give a color to the background. All sort of things. But the other thing I want to do, I will stop with the modifier for now. If I hover over here, there are other things we can pass. The other one is shape. What shape do I want this to have or to take? So I can come here, put a colon or comma, I should say, and I'm going to say shape. Now there are different kinds of shape we can pass. In this case, I'm going to just say circle shape as such. So this card as it is right now, let's go ahead and run this or refresh. Let's see what's going to happen. You can see it's very small. There is the card, right? It doesn't have much because number one, we don't have a size, and it doesn't even show the circle shape. Let's see something here. If I come back to our modifier, say dot, I'm going to say width as such, and you say width, and also there is height, so we can specify the width and height. But there's also another way of doing this. I could also pass this size. So there are overloaded size functions here. We have this size here. You can see we pass just one size, right? If you pass that one size, that means it's going to take up for width and height. But you can specify size for width and height. You can specify size in and so many. Now let's go just to size and say I want this to be about 45.dp, okay, as such. Let's refresh. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, you can see we have our circle. Very good. So again, because of modifier, we say padding is going to be about 3 dp, and the size is going to be 45. So the smaller the size, obviously, the smaller the circle is going to be. And we say the shape of this card is going to be circle shape. This is given to us. I can also say rectangle shape like this. If you go ahead and refresh, you should see rectangle. And voila, you can see there it is. Now, the reason why it's square, it's not a rectangle per se, is because of the size that we gave. We gave 45 for all of height and width. That's why we have a square. Okay, very well. So let's go back to circle, what we had before. So inside of our trailing lambda here, that means we can add contents that we want to see inside of our card. So in this case, I can say text like this and say tap like that. Let's refresh. And you can see we have tap showing there. But we have a problem here. The tab is not in the middle. We want it to be in the middle of our card. Now, there are different ways to deal with this issue. One of the quicker ways we have here to force the text we have here to be in the middle, is to wrap this text into a box. Because a box will have a parameter that will allow us to set whatever's inside of this box to be in the middle. So what I'm going to do, at top, I'm going to say box, and there we go, the first box there, and I'm going to get all of that and put it inside. And if you hover over inside of a box, it is indeed a composable. Everything is pretty much a composable in Jetpack Compose. And you can see we have modifier as the first parameter there, and we have the content alignment. This is really good because it will allow us to align the contents inside of this box, which in this case is the text. So I'm going to say content, start typing content alignment. It expects an alignment object, so say alignment, and there are different objects here, or different variables that we can pass. So the alignment we want is the center, okay, not top center. We want just the center as such. If you hit enter, and voila. Okay, there we go. So let's see if this is true. If I refresh this, I should be able to see tab now in the middle. So tab is now in the middle of our circle. That means if I make this a little bit bigger, you can see, doesn't matter how big or how small it is, our card, in this case, our circle, it's always going to be in the middle. Okay, there we go, and voila.